Mere pause tum ho. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Jump to navigation, jump to search. Mere pause tum ho. Title screen. Genre drama. Romance. Written by Khalil-ur-Rahman Kamar. Directed by Nadeem Beg. Starring Humayun Saeed, Ayaz Khan, Adnan Siddiqui. Theme music composer Naveed Nishad. Opening theme Mere Pause Tum Ho by Rahat Fateh Ali Khan. Composers Rahat Fateh Ali Khan. Country of origin Pakistan. Original languages Urdu, English. No. Of Seasons 1. No. Of Episodes 23. Production. Executive producers Samina Humayun Saeed. Producers Humayun Saeed. Shahzad Nasib. Production locations Karachi, Sindh, Gujranwala. Camera setup multi-camera setup. Running time 35 to 40 minutes. Production company Six Sigma Plus. Distributor ARI Television Network. Release. Original network ARI Digital. Picture format PAL 576i. HD TV 1080i. Audio format stereo. First shown in Pakistan. Original release the 17th of August 2019. The 25th of January 2020. External links. Website. Mere Pause Tum Ho, Urdu. English. I Have You is a 2019 Pakistani romantic drama television series, produced by Humayun Saeed and Shahzad Nasib under their production banner Six Sigma Plus. It is directed by Nadeem Beg and written by Khalil-ur-Rahman Kamar. It features Humayun Saeed, Ayaz Khan, and Adnan Siddiqui in lead roles. The serial aired on ARI Digital on the 17th of August 2019. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mere Pause Tum Ho has created many rating records. Its episode 1 and 3 got 10.9 TRPs, 5 and 15.5 TRPs, 6, episode 18 and 16 got 23.9 and 22.6 TRPs, and episode 17 and 22 got 24.9. Plot. Edit. Danish. Humayun Saeed is a simple man with high moral values. He works as a government 17th grade officer and earns 65,000 rupees monthly. His whole world revolves around his wife Maywish, Ayaz Khan, and son Rumi. He loves them immensely. Even though he doesn't earn much, he tries to give them all the happiness in the world. On the other hand, Maywish keeps coming up with wishes that she knows her husband will go to any extent to fulfill. Her desires are influenced by her best friend Anushi Maharbano, who keeps reminding Maywish on how much she is missing out on in life just because she married Danish. Maywish sees a necklace at a mall and demands that Danish purchase it for her. Eager to please the love of his life, Danish decides to take the shortcut and use his position as a government officer to earn some extra cash via corruption. At first, Danish is afraid, but after witnessing how easily his boss gets away with bribery, Danish is now determined to take the risk to provide his family with all the luxuries. He gets a right start at this wrong path and finally buys the much-hyped necklace for Maywish. However, when he arrives home, Danish finds out that Maywish and Rumi have gone shopping with Maywish's best friend, Anushi. Where Maywish is mature and understands the financial situation of her family, she is also under continuous peer pressure whenever she is with Anushi. She borrows money from Anushi to purchase the exact same necklace without knowing that Danish has already bought it for her. After indulging in shopping, Maywish and Anushi go to a restaurant for lunch, where we are introduced to Anushi's brother's boss, Shawar Ahmad, Adnan Siddiqui. Shawar Ahmed is a successful businessman and Anushi's family friend. However, his marriage life is unsuccessful. His wife lives in the US due to their marital issues, and Shawar is free to flirt and date whomever he pleases. Shawar and Maywish meet for the first time at the restaurant, and Shawar couldn't help but praise Maywish's beauty. She goes home and tells Danish about the necklace. Danish is disheartened, however, he does not tell Maywish about the necklace that he bought. Instead, he gives Maywish money to give back to Anushi. Later that evening, Danish and Maywish attend Anushi's brother's Mehndi function, where Shawar is also attending as a guest. Danish instantly notices Shawar's lustrous gaze on his wife and feels uncomfortable. Shawar asks Maywish for a dance. Maywish is flattered but kindly refuses. Danish sees the two talking and feels upset. He asks Maywish to dance with him and she agrees after resisting at first. Shawar asks Anushi to go over and dance with Danish so that he could manipulate Maywish into dancing with him. He uses this time to corrupt her thoughts by saying that a woman of her beauty and grace deserves much better than Danish. Danish sees Shawar holding Maywish close while dancing and is instantly furious. He tells Maywish that they need to leave immediately and they head home without having eaten dinner. Once they reach home, Maywish fights with Danish and asks him what is wrong with dancing. He tells her how disheartening it was for him to see another man holding his wife. He tells her that instead of being angry, she should feel ashamed. Maywish feels insulted that her husband could be so insecure. Danish apologizes and admits that his love for her makes him possessive and that he would go to any extent to keep Maywish to himself. He also tells her that Maywish should not worry about how others see her, but rather how her husband sees her. Danish leaves to bring food, as they left the event without eating. Frazzled by what happened at the Mundi, Danish is almost hit by a car, whose driver turns out to be Shawar. He senses Danish's unease and offers to give him a ride home. Danish refuses, and returns home without the food and goes to sleep. The next day Maywish and Rumi go shopping and accept a ride from their neighbor, Monty. Monty has eyes for Maywish but she doesn't see it that way. Danish is aware of this and does his best to protect his wife from the gaze of other men. Monty flirts with Maywish in the car and tells her that she and Danish don't belong together. Danish finds out that Maywish is in the car with Monty and leaves work to confront Monty. The two men get into an altercation. Danish arrives home bleeding and Maywish argues that Danish is at fault. When Danish argues that Maywish is blind to how men ogle at her and try to get close to her. Maywish promises to be careful next time. Danish encourages Maywish to attend Anushi's brother's wedding without him, as he doesn't want to be seen with his bruised face, but much to Maywish's surprise, he ends up attending the wedding and befriends Shawar. Later, Shawar drives them home and invites their family to his house for dinner, which they accept. The following day Shawar calls Maywish, saying that he has perhaps mistaken her number with Danish's and flirts with her, praising her beauty and her voice. Danish is offered a bribe of 10 lakh at work as maid to take the money home to think about it for a day or two. Danish understands the weight of this decision. Taking the money goes against his morals and those that he was taught by his father. However, he also believes that he will never be able to afford the fine things in life or even the necessities if he does not venture on this path. He discusses the situation with Maywish, his emotional turmoil visible, but ultimately decides to take the bribe. Danish and Maywish discuss their plans about the 10 lakhs that have come their way. Planning on buying a new car, new clothes and so forth, Danish expresses his disbelief that this money belongs to him. He goes so far as to approach Monty, despite their street brawl, and offers to buy his car. While Monty does not believe him and asks where he got the money, insinuating that Maywish is working, triggering Danish, who leaves in anger. The next morning when Monty approaches him, he says he will not buy the car from him and asks him to leave. Maywish, on the other hand, starts talking to Shawar on the phone on a daily basis when Danish leaves for the office. Shawar leaves no stone unturned to flirt with Maywish and make her feel as though he only has eyes for her. At work, Danish has a run-in with his boss when he is expected to sign off on paperwork that is unethical. He returns the money, unable to compromise on his ethics. That night, the two, plus Rumi, visit Shawar for dinner, where Shawar takes any moment with Danish not in the room to flirt with Maywish. He has one-on-one discussions with her in the hall, telling her that any man would feel as though he needs nothing else if he had her. Later, before the two leave, Shawar gifts Maywish a necklace and asks Danish to put it on her. After returning home, Danish begins to notice the change in his wife, pointing out that Maywish used to complain when men leered at her and yet she doesn't even notice Shawar's inappropriate stares. Maywish brushes it off, but it's clear that she is taken in and impressed by Shawar's wealth and charisma. It also becomes clear that she enjoys the attention, something even Danish begins to realize. While Danish works, Shawar drops by his home and visits Maywish, though he does not come in. Their daily conversations continue. Shawar becomes bold with his declarations towards Maywish and offers Maywish a job in his office with a monthly income of 1 lakh rupees. Danish arrives home and the watchman at the gate tells him that Shawar came to the building, asking for Danish's apartment number. Danish confronts Maywish and she denies. Danish sees Shawar holding Maywish close while dancing and is instantly furious. He tells Maywish that they need to leave immediately and they head home without having eaten dinner. Once they reach home, Maywish fights with Danish and asks him what is wrong with dancing. He tells her how disheartening it was for him to see another man holding his wife. He tells her that instead of being angry, she should feel ashamed. Maywish feels insulted that her husband could be so insecure. Danish apologizes and admits that his love for her makes him possessive and that he would go to any extent to keep Maywish to himself. He also tells her that Maywish should not worry about how others see her, but rather how her husband sees her. Danish leaves to bring food, as they left the event without eating. Frazzled by what happened at the Mundi, Danish is almost hit by a car, whose driver turns out to be Shawar. He senses Danish's unease and offers to give him a ride home. Danish refuses, and returns home without the food and goes to sleep. The next day Maywish and Rumi go shopping and accept a ride from their neighbor, Monty. Monty has eyes for Maywish but she doesn't see it that way. Danish is aware of this and does his best to protect his wife from the gaze of other men. Monty flirts with Maywish in the car and tells her that she and Danish don't belong together. Danish finds out that Maywish is in the car with Monty and leaves work to confront Monty. The two men get into an altercation. Danish arrives home bleeding and Maywish argues that Danish is at fault. When Danish argues that Maywish is blind to how men ogle at her and try to get close to her, Maywish promises to be careful next time. Danish encourages Maywish to attend Anushi's brother's wedding without him, as he doesn't want to be seen with his bruised face, but much to Maywish's surprise, he ends up attending the wedding and befriends Shawar. Later, Shawar drives them home and invites their family to his house for dinner, which they accept. The following day Shawar calls Maywish, saying that he has perhaps mistaken her number with Danish's and flirts with her, praising her beauty and her voice. Danish is offered a bribe of 10 lakh at work as maid to take the money home to think about it for a day or two. Danish understands the weight of this decision. Taking the money goes against his morals and those that he was taught by his father. However, he also believes that he will never be able to afford the fine things in life or even the necessities if he does not venture on this path. He discusses the situation with Maywish, his emotional turmoil visible, but ultimately decides to take the bribe. Danish and Maywish discuss their plans about the 10 lakhs that have come their way. Planning on buying a new car, new clothes and so forth, Danish expresses his disbelief that this money belongs to him. He goes so far as to approach Monty, despite their street brawl, and offers to buy his car. While Monty does not believe him and asks where he got the money, insinuating that Maywish is working, triggering Danish, who leaves in anger. The next morning when Monty approaches him, he says he will not buy the car from him and asks him to leave. Maywish, on the other hand, starts talking to Shawar on the phone on a daily basis when Danish leaves for the office. Shawar leaves no stone unturned to flirt with Maywish and make her feel as though he only has eyes for her. At work, Danish has a run-in with his boss when he is expected to sign off on paperwork that is unethical. He returns the money, unable to compromise on his ethics. That night, the two, plus Rumi, visit Shawar for dinner, where Shawar takes any moment with Danish not in the room to flirt with Maywish. He has one-on-one discussions with her in the hall, telling her that any man would feel as though he needs nothing else if he had her. Later, before the two leave, Shawar gifts Maywish a necklace and asks Danish to put it on her. After returning home, Danish begins to notice the change in his wife, pointing out that Maywish used to complain when men leered at her and yet she doesn't even notice Shawar's inappropriate stares. Maywish brushes it off, but it's clear that she is taken in and impressed by Shawar's wealth and charisma. It also becomes clear that she enjoys the attention, something even Danish begins to realize. While Danish works, Shawar drops by his home and visits Maywish, though he does not come in. Their daily conversations continue. Shawar becomes bold with his declarations towards Maywish and offers Maywish a job in his office with a monthly income of 1 lakh rupees. Danish arrives home and the watchman at the gate tells him that Shawar came to the building, asking for Danish's apartment number. Danish confronts Maywish and she denies it at first, then admits that she lied in fear of Danish's anger. Danish forgives her but insists that they return Shawar's expensive gifts back to him. After Danish leaves to return the gifts, Maywish calls Shawar to give him a heads up and Shawar assures her that he can handle Danish. Once Danish arrives, Shawar pacifies him by discussing his own loneliness and the joy he receives in their company. He sways Danish to the extent that Danish agrees to allow Maywish to work for Shawar. Once at the office, Shawar and Maywish seem to begin their affair, something that they now have more freedom to carry out. Danish is the only one in this situation who is getting affected emotionally and physically. He is unable to focus on his work as he keeps thinking about Maywish and Shawar. He knows that he gave Maywish permission to work for Shawar, yet his heart is telling him that something wrong with his wife's boss is showering her with a new car, a driver and advanced salary. Maywish is flying high thinking that's all she deserves. She starts comparing Shawar with Danish and thinks about all the stuff she's missed out so far. Slowly, she begins to neglect her family and doesn't attend her son's first day of school. Shawar insists that he cannot spend a day in the office without Maywish's presence. Shawar tricks Maywish into attending a business trip with him to Islamabad. Maywish does not tell Danish about the trip and believes she will be back home before Danish realizes. She tells Danish that she needs to work late and Shawar assures her that she will be back home before 9 p.m. As luck would have it, their return flight gets delayed due to a storm and the audience sees a startled Maywish, who is lying in bed at a hotel. She panics at first but Shawar reassures her that they will get the next immediate flight out. They return at 10:30 instead of 9 p.m., by which time Danish has discovered that Shawar is in Islamabad. Sensing the worst, he rushes to the airport, and his fears are confirmed when he sees his wife and Shawar arriving together. Danish takes Maywish home on his bike and she asks him to stop so they can talk. She asks him if he will beat her for lying to him, to which he replies that it was just a mistake and that there was nothing to worry about, even though he has tears running from his eyes. He realizes what she has done but he forgives her, and simply prohibits her from returning to work the next day. The next day, Shawar comes to the office and is surprised to hear that Maywish has not come to work. After the airport incident, Danish tries his best to return to the way things were before but Maywish is distracted with the thoughts of Shawar. It is revealed through a flashback in the hotel room that Shawar is influencing her thoughts and more directly pushing her to make the decision of choosing life with him. Maywish knocks on his room and declares she is ready to get off at the next stop, confirming that she is more than considering leaving Danish. This scene also implies that the relationship turned physical, which Shawar had planned it all along. After an evening out, Maywish creates an argument with Danish, even though he tells her that he does not think bad of her and that he would like to move on from this incident. He swears at Shawar and says he has ill intentions towards her boss. Maywish immediately asks him to not swear at Shawar and also that if Danish is over the incident then let her go back to the office, which he refuses straight away. Maywish declares that she is tired of their relationship and she wants nothing to do with Danish anymore. Danish seems to convince her the next day to calm down, but as soon as he leaves for work she is on the phone to Shawar. He asks her if she trusts him and that he will handle what needs to be done. He tells Maywish to keep pushing separation from Danish and ask for a divorce. Danish borrows money from his boss and gathers the things gifted to Maywish by Shawar. As he is reaching Shawar's office, Maywish is on the phone and warns Shawar in advance. Shawar makes Danish wait in reception for a while as a show of authority. He tells Maywish to pack her bags as he will ensure Danish divorces her tonight. Maywish is concerned that he won't, but Shawar tells her that Danish will divorce her. Danish is called in and tells him why he has come. He begins to return the advanced payment as well as the necklace. Shawar starts to discuss the matter more directly and asks Danish why is he holding on to Maywish if he can see that she wants to leave. To further confirm this, he shows Danish the images of Maywish in the hotel with him posing and wearing the infamous pink nightie. Danish is horrified and shocked. To add further the insult, Shawar also replays the recording of both speaking about he will convince Danish to divorce her. Danish, visibly upset and speechless, is then offered 50 million rupees to divorce her. Danish refuses the money and states that once a woman is bought, her value is worth nothing. Following an accident on his bike, Danish arrives home in bandages with the help of Mateen. Maywish shows no concern and Danish asks her to make a cup of tea. Shawar calls Danish to ask him when he should come past their house to take Maywish back with him. Danish says to come later in the evening, at a time when his son is asleep. Danish confronts Maywish and tells her that he knows everything. He tells her that he went to Shawar to save their love, but in the end, he barely managed to save their respect. He tells her that he saw the picture Shawar took of her and that he can see that she is happy for once. She tells him to tell Rumi the truth after a few days is to not upset him if they ever cross paths randomly. Danish tells her to start packing, but then asks if she is able to stay the night and leave in the morning instead when he is at work and their child is at school, to which she agrees after consulting Shawar. Maywish asks Danish what deal he has done for the divorce if he has taken money. Danish tells her he was offered the 50 million but refused it. He states that he never thought she would be sold so easy out on the street, to which she states that he can do so much with that money. Danish says the money would never equal the peace and joy he had when he would come home from work to see her. Through a flashback at the office, Danish questions Shawar about the thinking behind a woman who cheats. Also asking about how easy it was for Maywish to visit the hotel with him, he tells Shawar he has decided that he is letting go of Maywish and he can collect her later that night. Shawar is slightly confused about how direct and easy it was. Shawar advises him to not hold on to a woman who is trying to leave, as she has already left in her mind. This is repeated to Maywish by Danish. Speaking to Shawar on the phone as Danish has gone for food, Maywish discusses what has happened. Maywish tells him that he has gone to get a cake to celebrate their wedding anniversary. Shawar is amused and suggests that Danish has lost his mind. After bringing the food, he asks her to light the candles as he changes into clean clothes. Maywish notices blood on her fingers, which is Danish, as his arm is bleeding. He cleans the wound himself. After lighting the candles, he and her both blow the candles and Danish wishes her a long, healthy life. Maywish notices more blood on his arm and says she will bandage it, but Danish refuses and says she has inflicted enough pain on him he can manage. Maywish rings Shawar again and explains what has happened, then pleads with him to come collect her. Shawar suggests he ask herself, to which Danish laughs that he restless without her. He tells her he was the same when Shawar took her to Islamabad for the night, but at least she was her wife at the time. Danish tells her to ring him, but as she is about to walk away, he says no need to go away and do it, as there is no secrets between them anymore. He then hands her the divorce papers as she looks on with slight surprise. He starts to clean up, but as she is trying to help him, he tells her not to, as he will be doing it from now on anyways. He tells her that he might be poor but he's not dirty. Shawar arrives and is seated as Danish goes to make tea. Maywish and him exchange glances as there is awkward silence. Danish makes the tea after Maywish tries but says he never wants to drink from her hand ever again. Danish starts talking about how when they did love each other, he felt 6 feet plus. Since this event he hasn't felt smaller as a person. He tells how the love of a woman can make a man feel invincible, but when she's no longer interested, the man feels turned away from God. Shawar says times have changed and nowadays women do move on and regret the past and that they ever did love. He also further suggests a man should help pave the way, such as Danish has done, to help the woman move on. Danish says he has done exactly that by granting her divorce. Shawar responds in glee that it's great he has, but Danish asks him to not call something like divorce great. He further embarrasses Shawar by saying stealing from a broken home is not remotely great. Maywish herself appears highly embarrassed. She says she will get things from her room, but Danish forbids her and says her right for doing so was given away when he handed her the divorce papers. He goes and gets her luggage and says if they have finished their tea they can leave. Maywish appears dejected and almost in a state of disbelief as she walks towards the door. As Danish and him shake hands, Danish says to Shawar that he is surprised by looking at him as a businessman with all his charisma and told him he was an idiot to offer that much money for two but worthless women. Maywish is stunned hearing this and Shawar is left speechless. They both make their way to the car as Danish lays next to Rumi with tears in his eyes. Shawar and Maywish look at each other in the car with only a slight smile, both still bemused as to what has happened. Few months have passed and Danish is sat with Mateen Sahab discussing his intention to become a millionaire businessman, explaining how anything like loyalty, love and friendship can be bought. Danish also tells him how Rumi has slowly stopped asking about his mother and asked to be sent to a boarding school. He receives a letter from Rumi's head teachers asking for him to come in. As he is speaking to the head teacher, she explains how Rumi is distant and failing in his grades. His teacher Ms. Hania arrives and also states how she feels that he is not suited to the school as his classmates feel in danger from him. Danish explains something has happened which is the reason for his lack of interest and involvement. After both teachers agree to allow more time so Danish can speak to him, Ms. Hania asks about his mother, to which Danish angry states she has divorced him and left the country. Apologizing for the outburst, he explains that he will speak to Rumi and he will improve. Speaking to Rumi, he explains how the loss is more for him and that she is still his mother. Rumi tells him that he does not want to be his father's weakness and says if a mother leaves she isn't a mother either. At work, Danish receives a promotion with a higher pay grade and is congratulated by Mateen. During lunch, he explains how he is selling his apartment to start himself off in business and his intention to quit work so he can focus on business. Mateen Sahab suggests that he does not rush into these things and for him to reconsider. At home, Danish is upset after remembering how things used to be with Maywish. She and Shawar are both arriving back after a tour of Europe when she asks him when will they both marry. He laughs and responds that why spoil the good time they are having with thoughts of a lower-class girl. He says they are both loving each other, if there is a need for marriage later they will. He then says that in marriage there is divorce but not when it's love. Maywish appears confused at this and slightly upset as Shawar walks away. Danish meets Mateen Sahab at a cafe where he says he has a buyer for his apartment. Mateen Sahab again reiterates that he should hold on from quitting his job. He then tells him a time when he had a fall in front of his ex-wife who with her husband still helped him. He asks her how she can still help him after the hurt he has given her. She said to him that you feel sorry for the people who betray you, not hate. Mateen Sahab, upset at this, then leaves where he has a heart attack in his car. Danish takes him to the hospital and calls his daughter from his mobile telling him what has happened. Sat waiting, he sees Rumi teacher Ms. Hania run into the hospital and realizes she is Mateen Sahab's daughter. The doctor comes to Danish and says he has passed away. Hania falls to the floor crying. Danish sits thinking about Mateen Sahab and his last conversation as well as the funeral. The broker of the flat arrives and says he has been trying to contact him and that the buyer would like to make payment the next day. Danish asks him to delay it a few days with what has happened. Maywish and Shawar are sat having breakfast and she asks if he wouldn't mind Rumi coming to stay on the weekends, to which he replies it's no problem. He tells her to call herself and arrange it, then leaves for work. She calls and Hania answers, unaware that her late father's and Danish phone was accidentally swapped. Maywish asks for Danish and rudely speaks to her. Hania tells her to stop calling as it is not his number. She also receives a call from the broker who apologizes for the mistake. Danish calls her and they realize that the phone was swapped, so he says he will arrive shortly to drop it off. Just as he leaves the car park, Maywish arrives in a car after being advised by Shawar to go herself and collect Rumi. The security for the apartments tells her she has just missed Danish. She says she will wait for him in the car. It is revealed that Danish has not told anyone about the divorce, instead just said that Maywish and the kid are away due to work. She speaks to Shawar, who tells her that she should threaten legal action if Rumi isn't with her by the weekend. Danish sisters and speaks to Hania, sharing memories about her father. She tells him Rumi has improved in class and that his education is her responsibility. She says to him that she is curious to meet his ex-wife to see what a selfish, unloving mother and wife looks like. Danish arrives and is shocked to see Maywish in the car. She tries arguing in the car park, but he asks her into the flat as to not make a scene. He tells her he is happy for her to meet him, etc., but he will not allow him to go to Shawar. He tells her he is at boarding and he is just about finally settled. If he says his mother with another man, it will damage him. Maywish ignores this and continues to argue that she will have him for the weekends. Danish again refuses, so this time she threatens to take him to court where he will be disgraced. Danish snaps and shouts at her to get out. Speaking to a lawyer about his situation, he is advised against going to court due to the wealth and influence difference between him and Shawar. He also says that a guy like Shawar will not handle another man's child taking his attention away for too long, so the situation will sort itself out rather than he lose in court. Shawar receives a phone call and is told his shares have fallen. Already angry at this, he tells Maywish that a threat alone is enough rather than go to court. He has no time to visit courts with her over this matter. He also says he only has weekends with her and won't if she has a child clung to her, so she should just do day visits with him. He says to her he would rather her still look like a lover rather than a 50-year-old woman with a child, to which Maywish appears shocked. Maywish arrives at the boarding school where Rumi hides when he sees her. Speaking to the head teacher, she also meets Ms. Hania. She then realizes it was her that she spoke to on the phone. After saying she will be taking Rumi out, the head asks for a letter of permission from his father, as this is the first time meeting his mother. Angry at this, she says Rumi will meet her, showing that she is indeed his mother, but the head says rules are rules. They can meet but cannot leave the school premises. She either has to get a letter from Danish or a court order. Frustrated at not being able to take Rumi, she asks to meet him and Ms. Hania goes to get him. Rumi refuses to meet her and says he does not want to see her anytime she comes. Maywish is told this and explodes in anger, accusing the teachers of working with Danish against her. Hania tells her firmly that she needs to show respect to who she is talking to and that she only is repeating what Rumi told her. She cannot force him. Maywish is then told by the head that she will not be allowed on the premises if she behaves in this manner. Hania calls Danish and tells him what has happened and tells him that a child should not be forced against his will. Danish then receives a call from Shawar, who gives him 2 days to ensure that Rumi meets his mum or else his lawyers will tear into him. Danish meets Rumi and tries to convince him to meet his mother or else he will face huge trouble from them. Rumi laughs and says to him that he is the weakness for him. These words take an effect on Danish, who is conflicted about what to do. His mind is made up when he overhears a group of men who work for Shawar discussing the financial trouble and that he is spending all his money on a new girlfriend. He discusses his change of mind with both Hania and Rumi that he will be a man of strength and character. After ringing Shawar that he will discuss the matter face to face, Danish changes into a nice suit and cleans up his look. Arriving at the office, Shawar has informed his secretary to keep him waiting for an hour, but Danish expects this and walks in. Locking the door, he approaches a surprised Shawar and slaps him to the ground. Making his subordinates watch, Danish says he has come to discuss the matter as said before. Shawar tries to threaten him and call the police, but Danish slams him to the table and says he will do plenty of damage before the police come. Visibly scared, Shawar pleads with him to let him go. Danish sits him down and says by the time his lawyers and goons get to him, he can disgrace Shawar within minutes. He tells him, "You might have bought my ex-wife, but don't ever threaten me over my son." Danish says if he does try to get between them again, he will strip him down in front of the rest of his employees. After telling Shawar workers that they can use this incident to their advantages, he will be too embarrassed to say or do anything before walking out. Danish and Rumi are enjoying a day out at the zoo. They discuss how he beat Shawar, which makes Rumi happy and says how proud he is of him. He jokingly tells Danish to ask his teacher to marry him, which Danish laughs off. Shawar arrives at home and Maywish is concerned as to why he is bleeding. After learning about the office incident, she asks about what happened with the Rumi situation, and Shawar angrily tells her he won't beat her unless Rumi decides to himself. He shouts at her that because of his having to deal with situation he got beat up. She says don't hesitate on my behalf, but Shawar excuses it that if anything happens to Danish the suspicions will fall on them both. Rumi and Miss Hania sit and talk about him meeting his mother. She tries to convince him, but Rumi falls silent and says he still does not want to. He blames Shawar for what has happened, but Hania quickly says it's his mother's fault. She then changes the subject. She asks why does your father not marry, and Rumi tells her he himself has found a girl but he won't agree. Maywish still angry at Shawar, she argues that he claimed his threat meant something. He thinks back to Danish threatening him, but tells her to speak to Danish himself. He says he can get him killed for 30,000 rupees in Karachi if he wanted, but is hesitant because of her. He lies to her and says he won't forgive him for what happened, but she has to try herself first. Danish is moving out of his apartment as some neighbors discuss he is moving out because of his wife's betrayal. Danish meets them all to say goodbye and makes up with Monte due to their past differences. Monte apologizes for his actions in the past. Shawar is informed that his shares have dropped further because of the two-day strike at his chemical plant. During this, he receives a call from Maywish and angrily tells her to not disturb him. He tells his manager to increase the wages of staff to meet their demands and production to start immediately. Maywish arrives at the apartment but is told Danish has sold up and left without telling anyone where he is going to. She rings and tells Shawar, who wrongly assumes Danish sold up because he was scared of him. Danish overhears the same group of men who work for Shawar discussing the strike and the stock price drop. Shawar sits drinking and is upset about the fall in profits from the strike and the wage increase. He says to her that they are both in a bad situation, his business and her not seeing her own son. She says she has left it in the hands of God, but Shawar mockingly tells her don't blame God for your own actions. He is never happy with a divorce-seeking woman. He suggests they go to London for a week, to which Maywish says only after they marry. To avoid the conversation he says he is drunk and wants to sleep. Meanwhile, Danish speaks to an old university friend who works as a stockbroker and asks to meet him. They meet in the morning and discuss how Danish wants to make money by investing his money. He finally tells him about what has happened with Maywish. He is adamant to only buying Shawar chemical shares, telling his friend that Maywish has ran off with the CEO. At her home, Maywish answers the telephone, but nobody speaks. She tells Shawar they received a call from the US and he tells her don't answer again if it rings. It does ring again, but Maywish walks away without answering. Danish has come to view an apartment to rent, costing over 1 lakh a month, which he puts down a deposit. His stockbroker calls him and says his investment has paid off. The stock price of Shawar Chemicals has jumped, but Danish is not surprised to hear this. Hania and her friends arrive at a restaurant where she spots Danish alone. Whilst speaking to him, Maywish arrives with Shawar but do not notice him sat there. This upsets Danish, who asks Hania to sit with him for a few minutes as he does not feel too good. He then leaves without eating. The next day, Danish is traveling with his estate agent to a car showroom where he purchases a car. Receiving a call from the broker who advises him that share prices are good at the moment, so he buys a small amount. Shawar and Maywish seem to have finalized getting a nikah done, as she refuses to meet him face to face until the ceremony is done. During a shopping trip, she bumps into Anushi and tells her what has happened during lunch. She is surprised at this and tells her if she knows that Shawar defrauded his first wife and that the house belongs to her. Not bothered by this, Maywish says once she arrives from the US it will all be sorted. Getting ready as a bride for the nikah, there is a knock on the door. Maham, Savara Nadim, walks in and slaps Maywish and tells her that she is Shawar Ahmed's wife. Whilst driving, Danish is thinking about the past with Maywish, from how things used to be to when she said she wanted to leave him. He receives a call from Hania, who scolds him for leaving Rumi alone. She says he needs a mother with him and for Danish to marry. He replied that the girl he is talking about is herself Hania, so she quickly puts the phone down. Shawar gets arrested by the anti-corruption and police squad, who inform him that the accuser is his wife Maham. He pleads with her to stop this as it is insulting. She replies that it's only just started. As he is led away, Maham goes back to Maywish, who is sat crying. She asks her where is she from and if anything where does she belong right now. Ordering her to gather her stuff and leave, Maywish says she has nowhere to go, to which Maham tells Dewan to give her money, then she expects him to leave. She tells her she is lucky she wasn't arrested and that her punishment has already been given. The rest of her sentence will be out on the roads. Telling her that looking at her she is beautiful, that she feels sorry for her, but at the same time so ugly that she wanted to spit on her face. The driver takes her to the city center, but she asks if he could drop her off at her old apartment. He says even though they have moved out he will. Dewan and Maham discuss the matter. She asks if Maywish was mistreated by her husband, to which he says it appeared that he loved her so much he never raised his voice to her. Maham finds it hard to believe that a woman given so much love would act this way. Maywish arrives at the apartment car park and asks the guard to contact Danish. He says he does not know where he is and would not say even if he did. He tells her to leave the area as not many people know what happened, as she would lose respect. The next day she meets Rumi at the school gates. She asks why did he not come see her and if his father had stopped him, but he says it was his own choice. Asking if she could see him regular, he says maybe come once a month, then leaves. The driver informs Danish that a woman come to meet Rumi and he confirms that it was his mother. Maywish goes to the jail where Shawar is held, but he refuses to meet her as he is worried his wife will have him hung. He tells her to go back to her husband. Maywish is further upset hearing this and says she agrees with his wife that she is from nowhere and a cheap woman. She calls Salman, who feigns ignorance about the whole situation. She cries and says she needs help. He tells her to come to his house later. At their home, Danish meets Rumi, who tells him about his mother. He says that she was crying and looked like she wanted to ask for forgiveness. Danish is told by Salman that Shawar has been arrested on fraud charges. Danish does not comment on the Shawar arrest and Salman tells this to Maywish, who has come to their home sitting with Aisha. He tells her he cannot offer a job at his workplace as Danish is his partner. He asks her to leave a current address and he will find her something. She asks if it's possible to stay the night with them, to which he agrees, but Aisha refuses. She says she has seen the hurt in Danish eyes and she cannot justify allowing her to stay in their home. She says she has not only betrayed her husband but betrayed all the girls who are legitimate in love. Maywish arrives at Rumi's school the next day and asks Hania if they can both talk. Asking if they plan on marrying, Hania refuses that she isn't doing so. She apologizes for her earlier behavior, how she spoke to her. She tells how they married for love but she made a few mistakes and wasn't able to match his love. She admits her mistake but says mistakes happen, but Hania says she doesn't just call it a mistake for a mother or wife. She says you have committed a sin, even though Maywish says men do the same. Hania says they don't have the right to make that mistake, but a woman is a mother who bears children. Maywish asks her for help but Hania says